Let me tell you something most people only realize when it's too late. Your 30s are not just another decade of your life, they are the decade that quietly decides your financial future. You might feel like you still have time, like you can figure everything out later, like things will somehow fall into place on their own. But time doesn't work like that. It moves silently without warning, and before you realize it, the window you thought was wide open starts to close. In your 20s, mistakes are expected. You can try different things, change directions, waste time, and still recover without serious consequences. But your 30s are different. This is where your habits begin to solidify, your decisions start compounding, and your future begins to take a more permanent shape. The problem is that most people enter their 30s with the same mindset they had in their 20s. They are still delaying serious financial decisions. They are still focusing on short-term comfort instead of long-term stability. They keep telling themselves that they will start saving later, investing later, building later, but later slowly turns into years. And those years are more important than they seem because money is not just about how much you earn, it is about how early you start making it work for you. Your 30s are that critical window where small decisions can create massive long-term impact. From the outside, everything might look fine. You have a job, you earn regularly, your lifestyle is improving, and you feel like you are moving forward. But beneath the surface, something more important is happening. You are either building momentum or building limitations. Every financial decision you make during this decade carries weight. The money you save, the money you invest, and even the money you waste all shape your future in ways that are not immediately visible. And that is what makes this decade so dangerous. The consequences of your actions are delayed, which makes it easy to ignore them. Most people treat their 30s like an extension of their 20s. They keep upgrading their lifestyle every time their income increases. They spend more, commit more, and slowly increase their dependence on that income. At first, it feels like progress, but over time, it becomes a trap. Because once your lifestyle expands, stepping back becomes difficult. You are no longer working to grow, you are working to maintain. And that shift is what keeps people stuck for decades. Here is the truth that most people never fully accept. Your 30s are your leverage decade. What you do here does not just affect your present, it multiplies into your future. If you ignore this, you will pay for it later. If you use it wisely, it can change everything. Here's where most people make a mistake that quietly costs them years, and they don't even realize it while it's happening. They start believing that increasing their income is the same as building wealth. On the surface, it feels logical. You earn more, your lifestyle improves, and you feel like you are progressing. But this is where the illusion begins. Because as your income grows, your expenses grow with it. You move into a better place, upgrade your lifestyle, spend more on things that feel necessary, and before you notice, you are earning more but still feel stuck. This pattern is so common that people stop questioning it. Every raise becomes a reason to upgrade instead of a chance to build. You tell yourself you deserve it, and maybe you do. But what you don't realize is that you are slowly increasing your dependence on that income. Your life becomes more expensive, your commitments grow, and your ability to step back disappears. You are no longer working to grow, you are working to sustain. And the moment your income slows down or stops, everything starts to feel unstable. That is not security, that is pressure disguised as success. Now compare that to someone who understands how money actually works. Instead of upgrading their lifestyle immediately, they control their expenses and focus on building assets. They take a portion of their income and invest it into things that can grow over time. It could be investments, a business, or any system that generates income beyond their daily effort. They still enjoy life, but they do not let their expenses grow faster than their assets. And that one decision creates a completely different future. Another thing that becomes extremely important in your 30s is time, not just how much time you have, but how you use it. Most people underestimate how powerful time is when combined with consistency. Small investments made regularly, small improvements repeated daily, These actions may not seem significant in the moment, but over time they create massive results. This is the power of compounding, and your 30s are the perfect time to take advantage of it. But if you delay, if you keep telling yourself that you will start later, you lose that advantage because compounding needs time to work. The earlier you start, the more powerful it becomes. The longer you wait, the harder it gets to catch up. And once time is gone, you cannot recover it. So the real question is not how much you earn. The real question is what you are building with what you earn. There is another reality about your 30s that most people ignore, and it quietly shapes everything that comes after. Your responsibilities start increasing, but at the same time, your willingness to take risks begins to decrease. You start thinking more about stability, security, and protecting what you already have. On the surface, this feels like maturity. It feels like you are becoming responsible. But if you are not careful, this mindset can slowly trap you in a life where nothing really changes. Because while you are busy trying to stay safe, you are also avoiding the very actions that could move you forward. The truth is, growth always requires some level of risk. Not reckless decisions or blind moves, but calculated risks. The kind where you think things through, understand the possible outcomes, and still move forward because the potential reward is worth it. But most people never reach that point. They either avoid risk completely or they wait for the perfect moment that never comes. And by the time they realize it, years have passed without any real progress. Your 30s are also the decade where your identity becomes stronger and more defined. The way you think about money, the habits you follow, and the choices you make start becoming permanent patterns. If you spend this time acting like a consumer, always focused on spending, upgrading, and maintaining appearances, that mindset will stay with you. But if you start thinking like a builder, someone who focuses on creating, investing, and growing, that mindset will shape your future in a completely different way. Another shift that happens in your 30s is your relationship with discipline. In your 20s, you may rely on motivation, excitement, or temporary bursts of energy. But in your 30s, discipline becomes more important than motivation because motivation is unpredictable. It comes and goes. Discipline, on the other hand, keeps you moving even when you do not feel like it. And that consistency is what creates real progress over time. There is also a change in how you see time. In your 20s, time feels unlimited. In your 30s, you begin to realize that it is not. That realization can create pressure, but it can also create focus. Because once you understand that your time is limited, you start using it more intentionally. So the choice becomes clear. You can either let fear and comfort keep you stuck, or you can use this decade to take control and move forward with purpose. Now let's talk about the people who actually get this right in their 30s, because this is where the real separation happens. They are not smarter than everyone else, and they are not luckier either. What they have is awareness. They understand that. This decade is not about showing off success, it is about building it. While others are focused on looking successful, they are focused on becoming financially secure. And those two things are completely different. Looking successful is temporary. It is based on appearances. But being secure is structural. It is based on what you own, what you control, and what continues to work for you over time. These people make decisions that seem small in the moment but become powerful in the long run. They control their lifestyle instead of letting it control them. Just because they can afford something does not mean they buy it. They understand that every unnecessary expense is not just money spent, it is an opportunity lost. That same money could have been invested, multiplied, and turned into something that creates future income. And once you start seeing money this way, your behavior naturally begins to change. They also focus on building skills that increase their value in the real world. Not just skills that help them keep a job, but skills that give them flexibility and options. Skills that can generate income independently. Because they understand one simple truth. Relying on a single source of income is always risky, no matter how stable it appears. So they invest time in learning, improving, and adapting. They make themselves harder to replace and more capable of creating opportunities on their own. Another thing they do differently is how they treat time. They stop wasting it. They become more selective about where their attention goes. They reduce distractions, avoid unnecessary commitments, and focus on things that actually move their life forward. Because they understand that time is their most valuable asset, and once it is gone, it cannot be recovered. They also respect the power of compounding. They do not ignore small actions. They understand that consistency matters more than intensity. Investing small amounts regularly, improving a skill daily, building something step by step, these actions may look insignificant at first, but over time they create results that seem almost unbelievable. And perhaps the biggest difference is their mindset about the future. They do not assume things will just work out. They plan, they act early, and they stay consistent. Because they know that waiting is expensive, and starting now is the only real advantage they have. At this point, everything becomes clear, but clarity alone does not change anything. Action does. And this is exactly where most people fail during their 30s. Not because they don't understand what to do, but because they don't actually do it. They keep consuming information, watching videos, reading advice, and telling themselves that they will start soon. But soon turns into later, and later turns into years. And those years are what cost them the most. Comfort is the biggest reason people stay stuck. The routine feels familiar, predictable, and safe. You wake up, go to work, earn money, spend it, and repeat. It may not be exciting, but it feels stable. And that feeling of stability is what keeps people from making changes. Because the moment you decide to do something different, you introduce uncertainty into your life. And uncertainty is uncomfortable. But growth always comes with discomfort. There is no way around it. If you want your 30s to actually change your future, you have to break this pattern. You have to stop waiting for the perfect moment because it does not exist. There will always be a reason to delay, always something that makes it feel like now is not the right time. But the truth is, now is the only time you actually have control over. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to catch up. Start small, but start intentionally. You do not need a perfect plan, you need movement. Learn a skill that can generate income outside of your job. It does not have to be big at first, it just has to be real. Because once you experience earning in a different way, your mindset begins to shift. You start seeing possibilities you never considered before. At the same time, begin taking control of your money. Know where it is going. Stop spending without thinking. Start directing it toward things that can grow over time. Even small amounts matter if they are used consistently, because consistency creates momentum, and momentum creates results. There will be moments when you feel confused, when progress feels slow, and when doubt starts creeping in. That is normal. It does not mean you are doing something wrong, it means you are doing something different. And different always feels uncomfortable in the beginning. So this is where you decide who you are going to be. Someone who keeps delaying, or someone who takes action despite uncertainty. Because your future will not be shaped by what you know, it will be shaped by what you do repeatedly over time. There is one more thing you need to understand, and it is something that keeps most people stuck without them even realizing it. It is the illusion of security. From a young age, you were taught that a stable job is the safest path, that a monthly paycheck means you are secure, that as long as you are earning regularly, everything is under control. But if you really look at it, that security is fragile. It depends on something you do not fully control. Your income depends on decisions made by someone else, a company, a manager, or a system that can change at any moment. And when that happens, your entire financial situation can shift overnight. Real security does not come from a single source of income. It comes from your ability to create value in multiple ways. It comes from having skills that are adaptable, from building assets that generate income, and from not relying completely on one system to support your life. When you have only one source, you are always vulnerable. But when you start building multiple streams, even small ones, You begin to create stability. That is actually real. Fear also plays a major role in keeping people where they are. Fear of failure, fear of losing money, fear of stepping outside what feels comfortable. These fears are powerful and they can easily stop you from taking action. But what most people do not realize is that staying the same has its own cost. When you avoid change, you are not avoiding risk. You are choosing a different kind of risk. The risk of never growing, never improving, and never reaching your potential. Another important factor in this decade is consistency. Most people look for big opportunities or sudden breakthroughs. They want something that changes everything overnight. But real progress rarely happens like that. It happens slowly, through small actions repeated over time. Saving regularly, investing consistently, learning continuously, building step by step. These actions may not feel exciting, but they are what create lasting results. You also need to change how you see money. Stop seeing it as the end goal. Start seeing it as a tool. When money becomes the goal, you chase it without direction. But when you see it as a tool, you use it strategically. You invest it, you allocate it, and you use it to build something that grows over time. And once that shift happens, your entire approach to life begins to change. Now, everything comes down to one final truth. And this is where most people either change their future or stay stuck in the same cycle for the rest of their lives. No one is coming to fix your financial situation. No system, no job, no perfect opportunity is going to suddenly appear and give you the life you want. That belief itself is part of the conditioning. You are trained to wait, to follow instructions, and to depend on something outside of yourself. But the moment you take full responsibility, everything begins to shift, because responsibility is not pressure, it is power. It means your future is no longer controlled by circumstances alone, but by you. Decisions. You have to accept that the path ahead will not be perfectly clear. There will be confusion, mistakes, and moments where you question everything. But that is part of the process. Every person who has built something meaningful has faced uncertainty. The difference is that they kept moving forward anyway. They did not wait for perfect clarity, they acted with what they knew and improved along the way. That is how real progress happens. Not in a straight line, but through action, adjustment, and persistence. At some point, you also need to redefine what success means to you. For most people, success is based on appearances. A good job, a comfortable lifestyle, approval from others. But real success is control. Control over your time, your decisions, and your direction. It is the ability to choose how you live instead of being forced into a routine you did not design. And that level of control only comes when you build something that gives you independence. You will also notice something as you start changing your approach. The more you grow, the fewer people will understand you. Some will question your choices, some will doubt you, and some will try to pull you back into what feels familiar. That is normal, because when you step outside the system, you challenge the beliefs of those who are still inside it. But you cannot let that stop you. You have to stay focused on your path even when it feels uncomfortable. So here is the final choice. You can continue living on autopilot, repeating the same patterns, hoping things improve. Or you can take control, start building, and create a future where you are not forced to work forever. The decision is yours, but the consequences will stay with you for the rest of your life.